G'day and welcome back to this series on the Fiat 850 Sports Coupe EV Conversion. This is episode 4. In the last episode, those following will remember I got the engine and transmission out and got the car prepped a bit with a bit of rust treatment and so forth. In this episode, I'm going to try and get the motor attached to the transmission, make the adapter plate and the mounting plate for mounting the motor onto the transmission bell housing. So let's see how we go. So here's the transmission, and the easiest option, given that this is a rear wheel drive that has the drive shafts coming directly out of the transmission, so the drive shafts kind of come out like this. The easiest option is to mount the motor here. This is the flywheel which I took off the engine, and the reason I'm going to keep using that is that the flywheel is integral to the clutch, and I can mount the electric motor straight onto here and still retain the clutch, which I understand has a number of benefits in terms of how the EV will work, being able to use gears, being able to change gears like the original car, etc. So my plan is to make up a plate. I've got a piece of aluminium plate which I'm going to shape and which will bolt on there, and then the electric motor will bolt on here. Here's the flywheel. I've taken the clutch off it, and this is the flange, the drive flange that came with the motor, and I have to somehow attach this to this, and so this is the solution I've come up with. I got a piece of steel, and I've carefully machined holes to match these ones and also these ones, and I've tapped these holes with appropriate threads. This is how I intend to connect them. It was really important to be very accurate with these holes. They have to be absolutely concentric, or it will introduce a kind of a wobble or a shake into the whole system when the engine starts driving the transmission shaft. So this goes on here. And there we have it. I will turn this down in the lathe and make it round, because of course the mounting plate for the motor will sit somewhere around here, so I'll have to cut a hole in that to accommodate this, and so it will also need to accommodate this. But assuming that's all concentric, and I'll find out when I put it on the electric motor and try it out, but I'm pretty sure it is, that will be my connection between the new electric motor and the existing transmission. Okay, and here it is, the turned finished product. Hopefully that will do. The next thing to do is to assemble it all, and so I can work out the spacing distances I need for the motor to be able to mount onto the plate. I've got this piece of aluminium plate here, 10mm thick, and I have to mount the motor on here, and then this will then bolt onto the transmission. The way I'm going to do this is I've already marked it out, so I made a template out of a bit of 3mm MDF, which I marked out roughly where all the bolt holes go, and this has helped me to position the holes here. To cut these ones, or to drill these ones, I actually did that as accurately as I could on the milling machine, because it's so important to get the motor centered. So what I'm going to do, I've got a couple of issues I've got to face. So this is the adapter plate I made for connecting the motor to the flywheel. But of course, that I need to cut a hole that's bigger than that in here. So I've bought this hole saw, which is bigger than that, and I'm going to use that to cut a hole here. But I can't do it straight away. I have to do this in the right sequence, because in order to position this plate on the flywheel, I need to also center it around the drive shaft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut partly through with this, and then I'm going to drill a bigger hole which will be able to be centered on there. And I've made a I'm not sure if you can see, I've made a something that I can put on here to center things on there. And so this this fits on here. Like so, and that will then accurately position the bolt holes for attaching that. So I have to cut a hole the same diameter as that here before I cut out the bigger hole. So what I need to do is I need to be able to center this on there accurately, so I can get the bolt hole positions for bolting it onto the transmission, and then I can remove it, and then I can hopefully cut the rest of the bigger hole, even though I no longer have a pilot hole. If the groove is halfway through the plate, hopefully the hole saw will still work. So that's my theory. I'm going to give it a go and see how it works. Okay, so I've firmly mounted the plate on my drill press, and I've put this in. I've reduced the speed down to 140, which is what they recommend for this cutting in aluminium. So let's see how it goes. Okay, I flipped it over. I'm going to try cutting a bit from this side too. I think that will do me, because I don't want to go too far. I don't want to risk the thing popping out. So here we have the hole for the adapter plate, or to accommodate the adapter plate, drilled from both sides partially, and I'll be able to finish drilling that all the way through once I've drilled the mounting holes for mounting this plate onto the transmission bell housing. Accurately cut a hole that will fit over my centering rod that fits over the drive shaft of the transmission there, and then I've used this template here to mark out the 3 bolts here, which I could cut off, but I've decided to leave them. That was where the starter motor bolted to the transmission, and so I'm leaving it there as kind of locating bolts. So I've drilled them, I've drilled that. So let's see if it's going to fit on. So that goes on there. Slide that in, and then we line it up, and look at that, beautiful. So that's now in position, so I can drill the mounting bolts, and I've got my 4 bolts there for the electric motor to attach to. So once I've drilled these holes out, I'll be able to then cut that out, and then hopefully then everything will line up nicely around the shaft. into place. That should nicely there in readiness for my nitrogen motor. Okay, welcome back. I've made a little bit of progress here. I offered this up to the motor and the transmission, and I estimated the spaces I need, and so I have made up these spaces here. Countersunk these because there was not a lot of space between this when it's up against the transmission housing and where the flywheel comes in. So I thought it best to use countersink bolts there. So I'm now ready to, I think, try and assemble it all and see whether or not it's actually going to work, whether the motor's actually going to drive the transmission. So let's give that a go and see how we go. Well, that all seems to be working. It's driving the drive shafts, no major vibrations, so I think it's now ready for installation. So stay tuned.